Today, I'm going to show you a foolproof template to avoid the dreaded flat wall when you are trying to make a factory that looks a bit more realistic or aesthetically pleasing. Welcome back everybody to our design series. This is the fourth video, and we have a playlist on the channel if you wish to check out the previous ones. Today's video topic sprouts from a suggestion from one of you guys in the comments actually. In the first design video, I glossed over the idea of breaking up a wall when referring to depth and angles, as it wasn't the primary topic of the video, and that's exactly what I want to show you today. Whether you're on your first day of playing Satisfactory or a seasoned player who wants to dive deeper into the iceberg of designing in this game, you should find some great information in this video that hopefully helps you make factories that you are very proud of. So I'm pretty sure most of you guys have either seen a wall or build like this or have built one yourself, which is kind of what we're trying to avoid. And the first thing I want to do is shift our perspective from looking at the wall like this at face value to looking at it from the side like this. And instead of this being our wall now, I want you to view this as a center line for your wall, because honestly, the more space you give yourself to make a wall, the more detail you can add. And for the most part, I use at least half a foundation of width for my walls, sometimes 2, and maybe in extreme cases 3. That might sound like a lot, but depending on the build, it might actually kind of need it. Now, the basis of this method is very easy to understand. All we're gonna do is go out and in at various points on the wall from this middle line. And in a few minutes, I'm gonna show you a great example of this method that I think most people would agree is much better than a box factory. Now, this is really where you get in the rabbit hole of trying to figure out what to put where. And again, later in the video, you'll get to see a lot more options in what you could do when you use this method. Now, I don't know if you guys are going to be modifying a factory you have already made, but if you're planning on building a factory from scratch, there are a couple things you can do before starting to build that will greatly help how your build could look. A big thing is trying to avoid just planning a big square. Try to make a bit more of a unique shape, like maybe an L-shaped foundation, maybe plan to make it multiple floors, or have different functionality pieces built into the building, like maybe a truck stop for exporting resources, a train station maybe in the building. Obviously later in the game you get drones, and you might want to incorporate those into your roof design, but not all of these things have to be completely functional. You could just make up a purpose for a, let's say, outdoor lounge area, whatever it could be, that is up to you. But I do want to stress the importance of having a more creative foundation design or shape that will really force you into already starting with a unique design. But if you are already committed to, let's say, a more square or traditional building or design, something that can also help is looking up maybe more modern images or brutalist design architecture for real life buildings and maybe get some inspiration on what you could do with that. And the other big thing with building factories is that if you raise them off the ground by a decent amount, let's say like 4 foundations or more, while it is a lot higher in the air, it gives you a lot more room to work with the foundation and make the foundation of the factory really feel like it's supporting the whole thing. I've done this in countless factories, and it's a really easy thing to do to give your factory a lot of depth and more of a unique design right off the gate. And again, another thing to think about before you start building is the number of floors you might need or want. All of these things are going to impact the overall shape. And again, if you have a more unique shape, your build is going to look just definitely cooler, at least in my opinion. Okay, and now to show you this kind of method in action, if we look at this wall right here, this wall goes straight down the whole build. It's the same wall here and follows these pillars all the way down. This is now our center line of this build, and as you can see, this is definitely not a flat wall. I think right about here is a great example of what you can do with at least the foundation part. So this building is quite tall off of the water level as we built on the water. So you don't have to worry about the landscape kind of getting in the way, which is one of the biggest benefits of building on the water. And I believe this first floor right here is 11 foundations off of the water level. Now that's really high. You don't always have to go that high, but for this specific build, I kind of wanted to because I also needed to house water extractors and some other stuff. So I wanted to have plenty of space. And if we really dumb this down to the basics, this wall being our centerpiece, we went out for part of the foundation and alternated every 2 foundations of going out and then going in. And this creates quite a bit of depth when looking at it from afar. The next thing we did is going up a few walls, we made a walkway or balcony outside that is going to help add more depth. And it also helps that the supports for this walkway also line up with our recessed part of the foundation. And then going up just a little bit more, we start a more unique roof style design. Now keep in mind this build is actually not done, but I hope this gives you more of a physical image of what you can do when you kind of use this method. And as you can see, the roof structure is kind of similar. So that middle line would be right here. And instead of just squaring it off, we've shaved off the corner and we've done it on both sides. Now I will say I didn't use this formula everywhere, as the front kind of doesn't necessarily follow that, whereas the entrance for the trains is one foundation further out. And technically the walking space for the second floor and first floor are a little bit different, but this does include part of that extra aspect of including more functionality inside the build. So I have a train station here and I have one on the back side as well. Now they're both functional, and I guess you could make a train station that doesn't necessarily have a function for the factory. It could just be a train that runs for aesthetics. That's totally an option, although I definitely needed to import the iron here. But this gave me a reason to have maybe an interior balcony-esque thing overlooking the train station. Now, if we go look at the neighboring train station that's going to be exporting these materials, we borrow a lot of the same things because they're both kind of connected right next to each other. So we have the same foundation blueprint, but we're doing something a little different, as this is where trucks enter. So instead of recessing, we have truck entrances here. But again, we have a balcony, but with a different design. So it's a little bit different. A lot of windows here and an open-aired roof for the train stations. And again, this is all relatively following that same principle of having your middle line and extending out. And there's not much recess going on here besides maybe a balcony on the inside right now, but it doesn't always have to. It's just an option you have. And there's not much else to this method. I think using this method along with an intriguing foundation design, a good set of buildables that look good together, some nice colors, and a good bit of creativity or inspiration, anyone can make a build that they're really proud of, and maybe something that they didn't know that they could. Remember, building is about patience, being willing to delete something you just made a little bit if you don't fully like it, and experimentation. But I think that's it for me. If you guys found anything interesting or helpful in this video, please let me know down below. And if you're interested in seeing any more Satisfactory stuff leading up to the 1.0 release, feel free to subscribe. But that's it for me. Until next time, peace.
I'm slick with words, tongue sharp, you left in thirds. You pitching verbs, I knock it out, I'm flipping birds. While smoking herbs, I'm blocking out what often hurts. I'm moving herds, it's me, my family.